Hi folks, I'm Tom Carlson, owner of Hostas Direct. September 20th, 2008. I want to give you some ideas for some technology you can use for fertilizing your leaves and roots. It's called a fertilizer injection system. We have 3 of these in our operation. They save you a tremendous amount of time, but most importantly, they give you precise control over the amount of fertilizer that is mixed with the proper amount of water. So as an example, the amount of water you can have can vary depending upon the pressure coming out of your pump or your well. It can vary based on the length of the hose, the thickness of the hose. But with the fertilizer injection system, no matter what those variables are, it's going to mix the exact amount of fertilizer with the water, so you're not going to burn or destroy your plants. Another nice thing about these devices is that you can change the amount of fertilizer that's being added just by rotating this device here, and you'll see the exact amount of fertilizer being added in parts per million. And of course you can convert that fairly easily into cups and gallons and that kind of thing. Another nice feature of these injection devices is that you can adjust the dial to change the amount of fertilizer that's being added to the water and not have to change your mixture of water and fertilizer. So here we're using a 5-gallon bucket. We've done some calculations and know that if we use 4.3 cups of 20-20-20 and we use Plantex or Peter's mix, that we're going to get the dilution we want for feeding our tissue cultures. If you want to put the application on for plants in your yard, you can double that amount if they're more mature. Some of you'll notice that some of the plants you receive might just have a little bit of a blue film on them, and that's from the fertilizer. Water is becoming more and more scarce, and the price is going to keep going up. We use tens of thousands of gallons of water every year. Of course, environmentally and financially, we don't want to waste it. Also, we don't want to be wasting an exceptional amount of time in applying the water to our plants, because we hand water. It's very labor intensive. So we use a couple different size hoses, primarily a 3/4 inch hose, sometimes a 5/8 inch hose. If you look at our next educational video, you'll learn more about hoses. Another thing that can be used, this is made by a company called Dram. You can attach this to your nozzle. This is literally like a siphon that you can put in your bucket of dilution, and you can put your garden hose on here, and it's another way of mixing fertilizer with water. The problem is you can only do it with about 50 feet of hose, and it's just not as precise. But that's another option. You can hear this click, 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 click. Well, that's coming from inside of the injection device, and it's mixing the precise amount of fertilizer in with the precise amount of water, and then it's sending it out through the hoses. If you want to just use it like a regular hose and not inject, all you got to do is flip the switch. Another type of fertilizer to use is your traditional granular fertilizer. And in the spring, before the pips come up, I'll apply a 10-10-10 garden fertilizer you can buy just about any place. Because I have garden labels where my plants are, it's a lot easier to know where to apply the fertilizer, because again, the hostas aren't out of the ground yet. Sometimes I'll use this little handheld hand crank device for applying the fertilizer. It's a little on the slower side. Sometimes I'll just apply it by hand or with a shovel or a trowel. Because I have a fairly large operation, a lot of times I just use a lawn fertilizer spreader. And now in this case, if I wanted to fertilize my garden that way and all the golden terras, I would put this to block the fertilizer, and I'd just walk along like this, and that way I can control the fertilizer. Now folks, it's really important that we all try and keep fertilizer out of the wastewater that goes down into the sewers. And again, I just use something like this, and I'll walk right along here. That keeps the fertilizer controlled. If any of it gets into the street, I sweep it out. But that phosphorus is really hurting our environment. So I hope you'll do all you can, including keeping your streets clean. As that, any debris decays, goes down the water into the sewer, and it creates all kinds of problems downstream. One other thing, I've said it once before, but when you use different garden chemicals like bleach, don't just throw it down the street, down the drain. That's going to get into the rivers. Put it into your water sewage system by throwing it down your drain. And that way, your local sewage folks can break it down and it won't hurt the environment.